You know, if cinema is a tool for empathy, then who you empathize with first, I think, shapes how you see the rest of the series.
Don't you ever miss it? Home?
I like our life here. The help that Jefferson makes everything easier.
As his family.
You know you always say that, right? You're her employer, not her friend.
The Expatriates, a novel by Janice was just something that I had never read before. You know, when I first read the novel, I just was so absorbed by the richness of the characters. You know, there's just so much depth and so much nuance in the situations and complexity. And it was a world that I don't get to see very often, you know, people of all different backgrounds and people in diaspora, you know, expats, but they all look very different. You know, Mercy is Korean American, and yet she's in Hong Kong as an expat. And it's a book that tackles identity. There are people of all different identities, and yet that's not the plot of the story.
I just sometimes want to be alone. Where I'm not somebody's wife, not somebody's mother. Where I'm not defined by tragedy.
I think that, you know, for me, adapting Janice's novel, I always told her, you know, it's like, this is your baby. You created this, you know, and then if I adapt it and I do a poor job of it, you know, maybe then people won't want to go read the book, or, you know, we're always going to be connected in a way. And so I wanted to do her beautiful novel justice. And that's why I asked her to be in the writer's room with me. And so having her there just gave me a bit of assurance that we weren't going to deviate too far from not storylines, but the intentions of her book. And of course, she was actually the opposite. Instead of being incredibly precious or protective, she kept being like, let's throw it all out and start over. We don't have to stay true to this. And so it was really exciting to see, you know, what we wanted to keep and then where we wanted to expand. Certain characters, for example, that I loved, but you know, they weren't that deeply explored in the book. For example, I just said to Janice, if you could write an entire chapter just about this character, what would that look like? And then we got to do it. But I always saw the series as an interrogation of perspective. And so I wanted to have audiences that entered this world of expats by seeing episode 5 first, where we take background characters and we put them in the foreground. You know, if cinema is a tool for empathy, then who you empathize with first, I think, shapes how you see the rest of the series. I wrote this episode along with the writer's room when we were breaking it. We talked about how it should work both as a standalone, like if people were watching it, meaning if people were watching it at a festival and they hadn't seen the rest of the series, that they could understand what that they wouldn't be lost, you know, that if it was complete in and of itself, but that it also shouldn't repeat information if people were watching it in sequence. And so it was just tricky to navigate, you know, something that works in two different ways.
I think we need to think about getting out of here. Because we're drowning and you don't see it.
The minute our feet leave Hong Kong soil, we are abandoning our son.
There's a scene in episode 5 between Nicole's character Margaret and her helper Essie, in which she asks her to move back to America with them. But all of the things that got us to that moment, like, I feel like we always get such audible reactions whenever it screens. Like, we literally, the whole audience goes, you know, and I've never experienced that before. Like, I've heard laughter, or I've kind of heard like quiet tears, but there's like a no, like so I'm always really excited when that scene comes up, because I'm excited to hear the reaction.
Go grab it. You don't know whose that is.
You're just watching them every second, even when your eyes are closed. And I have no idea how it happened.
I think that like visually, I drew more from my like literary references in an unconscious way. I was an English major in college, and so read a lot of Chekhov and things like that. But in approaching it as an ensemble, I definitely thought of Robert Altman and. This is a movie, but like Nashville, and as well as P.T. Anderson's Magnolia, like just how to create an ensemble piece that where all of the characters are disparate but also connected in some way.
You're not betraying anyone by trying to live a better life.
We all need to keep living.
I think that they, I would love if they came away, first of all, like disagreeing about who they like and who they hate, and why they like them and why they hate them. I think that's really healthy to have that discussion, because I really wanted to make these characters very human, and they weren't heroes, but they also weren't monsters. But I think ultimately I also want people to, connect with it, with the sense of grace and forgiveness, whether that is forgiveness of yourself or others, and just a sense of resilience, because I think that we as a society have been through a lot the last few years, and there's a collective grieving, a collective loss, and a collective anger too, and so that there's the word that always came to mind as I was, making the series and getting to the last episode was leaving the audiences with a sense of resilience, which is something that I recognize in particularly many people, but particularly the women in my life who have been through some tremendous experiences, but they've always found a way to carry on.